Hi, and welcome to another episode of She Leads Biotech, the podcast where we celebrate the achievements of women in the life sciences. My guest today joins me from Denmark, but her story starts in Poland, where a fascination with medicine began at a very young age, shaped by a childhood surrounded by science, curiosity, and a clear sense of purpose. That purpose, to bring new therapies to patients, has taken her across Europe and into a 20-year career in clinical research and development, working on trials that span continents, therapeutic areas, and some of the most complex and challenging diseases. From early roles inside global pharma to leading clinical development strategy, she's seen firsthand what it really takes to move a treatment from concept to patient. The setbacks, the pivots, and the constant pressure to get it right. Today, she's building something of her own, a consultancy designed to help biotech companies think more strategically about how they bring therapies to market. Not just execute, but truly partner. Alongside that, she continues to operate, advise, and play an active role in supporting women across the European life sciences community. So please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of AnRes Clinical, Anna Polak-Andersen. Anna, hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and then thank you for this opportunity to be able to chat with you today.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. I did have a whole welcome prepared for you, but I actually prepared it from Dutch, and you're not Dutch, you're Danish, right? They're two completely different things.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so
Yes,
that
absolutely.
so that fabulous introduction that I had planned has gone completely out of the window because you probably wouldn't have understood it. So welcome from beautiful Copenhagen, somewhere I've always wanted to visit, I have to say. Welcome to the show. What's it like in Copenhagen at the moment?
So, sorry, actually, I'm not in Copenhagen. I was in Copenhagen yesterday. We're actually based in sort of middle Denmark, in a small city called Vejle.
Okay.
But Copenhagen is a place that I'm very often having meetings or traveling to anyway. So
Excellent.
it's only like 2 hours away on the train.
I thought you were about to tell me you were in a completely different continent, and I'm like, okay, I'm not even sure I've got the right guest now because I've clearly got this wrong. But you're in Europe.
Yes,
Okay.
very much in Europe.
Very much
Completely.
in Europe. Okay. And I'm really looking forward to talk because I haven't actually spoken to anybody from in Europe for quite some time on the show. So it's actually going to be very nice for me to catch up on what is going on over there. We'll get into all of that with you in a minute, but let me just make sure I've got the rest of this straight before we go any further. You are the CEO of AnRes Clinical. You're an operator because you're head of clinical development as well for a company. You are a member of the Women in Life Sciences in Denmark. You're also an advisor as well. So pretty busy woman. Have I got that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm thrilled that you've taken the time out to join us today because I'm pretty sure you've got a lot going on. But tell me, how did it all start for you? Did you always know that you wanted to be in the sciences, or was it completely by accident?
So in terms of like, how did it all start? I think I always wanted to work with medicine and medication. So actually that desire already started when I was 5 years old.
And somebody buy you a chemistry set or something, and then you were like, I need to do this. Or a biology set.
Almost. Yeah, I mean, at the time, so I'm Polish, so when I was 5 years old, still in Poland was socialism. So it wasn't so easy to buy toys or chemistry sets. But my father is a medical doctor, and there was obviously a lot of conversations about that, a lot of books.
Right.
And I was very, very sure that I wanted to be involved in bringing new medicines, and obviously helping people to address their medical problems.
Okay, so you've got a master's in pharmacy, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and what was your intention to do with that? Did you have a career plotted out? Or what happened once you finished your education?
I think I was quite clear early on in my studies that I would like to be involved with pharmaceutical industry. Although I think at the very beginning I was still quite sure I'm gonna be more involved in scientific work. But since I studied at the Medical University of Warsaw, I think at that time the way I think scientists didn't have that many opportunities as they would have had, for example, in the US. And I think when I kind of saw a bit closer how this scientific work looks like in the real life, I felt it was quite far from a true kind of innovation and advancing new therapies. And not that it wasn't important work, but in my mind at that time it was just too far away to making a true and meaningful impact on bringing the new therapies to patients.
I totally get that, because you've got the scientists at the bench can spend years and years and years really focused on one particular area, and it comes to nothing, right? It's just like, I've spent 10 years focused on this and now it's just been proven it doesn't work. But they have that mindset to just keep going, looking for the answer. And I think the people that move into the development of clinical studies and things are the ones that are like, I want the answers. I want them now. Can we move this forward? Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yes, I think it's very fair. But what's really important, and it's really relevant to any work in clinical development in biotech. This aspect of trying and failing and trying again and failing. That's really still very much true to any clinical development, because you may need to repivot, and then so many products still fail.
Right, but that excitement aspect of it, I think things are moving forward each time, even though it might be that they move backwards sometimes before moving forward again. I can imagine it is, exciting. A lot of the women that I've spoken to on the show have said, it's just that what's round the corner and the end goal, obviously the patient, is really what keeps people going through these failures, pivots, and all the other things that they need to do.
Yes, I think that's exactly you touched on. So what is the end goal and the overall sort of what you want to achieve?
So what was the early part of your career like? You finished your studies. What was your first job in clinical research?
So I have started as a clinical research associate.
Yep.
So it's a role that is combining a lot of administrative tasks with a deep understanding of clinical trials and what's important in clinical trials. So I have started at Pfizer. So that was my first and it was a period of intense learning, I think. And then at that time I really didn't know what I don't know, so I felt probably too confident too quickly.
I'm too good for Pfizer. I know too much.
I didn't stay long there. I felt like I would progress my career better in another place. Maybe now I'm looking at it, it obviously was a heavily corporate environment. Yep. And at the time, this was literally almost my first job. So yep. I really didn't know how to work. I didn't know how to work in a corporation. The job itself, the role was also very, very new. So maybe that aspect was a little bit challenging, but it has been also a really, really great time. I worked on very, very important projects, bringing therapies to new indications. So, for example, sunitinib in gastrointestinal stromal tumor. And I think those projects really will stay in my mind for a very long time. So the sunitinib, the cancer indication, that was when I was actually exposed directly to the data involving patients dying and, the histories around it. And you have to, as a CRA, you really read a lot of very personal histories, and you can only imagine how hard it must have been for these people. Of course, in the course of a clinical trial, or when you are this person at the sort of at the data sort of review end, and you really need to focus on the facts. There is no time.
Emotion can't get in the way, kind of thing.
Yes, but of course it is there. And when you kind of come home and you finished a very busy day after reviewing many medical histories, obviously it affects. You can only imagine how challenging it must have been for the whole family when we are talking about serious illness.
Yeah. So
life-threatening.
That must have been a driver for you. Did that sort of reinforce for you, this is why I'm doing this? This is why I want to progress in this field?
Yes, absolutely. And this has been my overarching goal, I think, throughout my 20 years in clinical research and clinical development, to really make a difference that provides some more opportunities and choices for these patients to manage their condition. And I also worked a lot in rare disease, where very often there isn't anything out there at all for these patients.
Right. So let's talk about AnRes Clinical. You're the CEO and founder, and it's a CRO, right? Is that?
So AnRes Clinical, it's a clinical development consultancy.
Okay.
We actually telling everyone we are not a CRO.
Okay, and I just did, so ignore that, everyone. Not a CRO.
But yeah, that's probably, I think, in many people's mind, they need to sort of put a label, and that's how the human brain works.
Right. So what's the differentiator then? Let's clear that up straight away. If you're a clinical development consultancy, not a CRO, why would people know the difference, and why would your company be different?
Today's episode is brought to you by CNA USA Executive Search. We support life sciences, biotech, medtech, and advanced therapies companies with search solutions built on credibility, deep networks, and an authentic approach to partnership. If you're hiring, planning ahead, or simply want to learn more about what we do, visit cnasearchusa.com. Now, on to today's conversation.
So first of all, a CRO and would be the ones who would conduct and work on the project from an operational perspective. So they basically are the guys who would make it happen. But because I worked in a CRO for really a number of years myself, very often it's focused on execution. So let's just do it. It's done. Great. The sponsor, the client is happy, and obviously we can close the project and move on to the next one. But
right.
It's very, and I'm not saying that every CRO is like that, but sometimes I could say, especially with these busy project managers who are like this kind of in charge of large or small clinical trials at various clinical research organizations, are just so busy that they don't really have the time to think. They don't have the time to kind of pause. Okay, is this really the best route for this drug? And this is something that is, I think, not really the main domain for CROs. Okay. So having also worked within biotech teams, being directly involved in building strategies for clinical development that would usually be aligned with the regulatory strategy, usually based on a consultation with EMA or the FDA, but not only. Then I realized that there is a benefit of having these experts who have been actually the ones behind the strategy, and maybe sort of passing the various lessons learned from different projects, assignments that they have done, that they would actually help the biotech to find the best route to the market.
Okay, that makes sense.
This is where we are. We really want to help and work as part of the team to find the best way to the market, and also make sure that the product is really addressing the right patient population. And here where the input from clinicians, from key opinion leaders comes in. So really incorporates various aspects of the feedback that you can receive, not only from the regulatory perspective, but from the usability perspective. Does whatever is being developed, does this make sense from current treatment algorithms that various physicians in various countries are using?
Right.
Is this likely to be basically taken by patients? Is this relevant for their disease? And I think that is probably one of the questions where sometimes some of the biotech companies, in my opinion, don't spend enough time on for various reasons.
Yep. Okay. So it's more, it feels a little bit like my business in terms of being more boutique and looking for solutions with partners, rather than that transactional approach of, well, this is a trial, we're going to run the trial like this from A through Z. Nothing wrong with it, perfectly good trial. Hopefully the outcome is good at the end, but there's no partnership in it. It's just a transaction to then move on to the next trial. So for me in my business, that, rather than it just being a vacancy and you work it through to the end, it's much more that partnership with the client as to what do they want the outcome to be, and how involved are they going to be in the process as well. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, absolutely. And partnership specifically is one of our company values, along with the transparency and openness.
And what have you learned since you've been doing AnRes Clinical? What have you learned about choosing the right clients and the right partnerships?
So, of course, it's always good to learn, and I think at the beginning, I don't believe I had that ability to really see early on certain, I don't know, like maybe red flags.
Right, yeah. Oh, we all get them, don't we? Yeah, you miss them at first, but then you learn from them. So what do you look for now in a client?
100% of the cases, I want to know what the trial is about, what is the indication, and if that treatment has a potential of bringing something meaningful for the patient. So does it address an unmet need? And I think that's actually very important for me personally in general.
Yep.
So I'm first looking whether the project has this sort of bringing something potentially very, very valuable for the patients and overall the scientific and the medical community. But I think that's number one, but also the relationship that you can build. Of course, the relationship is not necessarily there from day one, right? It's something to work on.
You have to work at it, right? It's like any relationship, it's got to be worked at. And I think that's what the importance of the partnership, that both sides want to work at something to get it across the finish line.
But I think where I realized sort of the misalignment in the partnership was usually when the values were different. We're talking about clinical trials, so it's really important that you do the right thing. You really give your best, and you make sure you deliver and pay attention to the detail as well. And sometimes when these aspects are not aligned, whenever then some issues come up, then it's really difficult to agree, like a shared strategy,
right,
on approaching those issues. usually I think when I had to kind of decide that maybe this is too challenging, it was usually a problem of alignment in the approach.
And expectations as well, I think, isn't it? That the expectations of one side of the party don't necessarily meet the expectations of the other.
Yeah, and the expectations is and this where I also learned now. I think maybe at the beginning I wasn't actually communicating upfront certain things the way I would like for example, the partnership to be, or certain specific aspects of the project. But now I really start to communicate that very clearly and very early on.
Great.
And actually, this is one of the sort of recipes for success that I have also in the last years.
Okay. So what are you seeing at the moment in the current biotech and clinical trials landscape over in Europe? I mean, it could be different here in the US, but what does the landscape look like in Europe?
So since the war in Ukraine started at the start of 2022, I think a lot of European biotechs, it has become more and more difficult to obtain funding.
Yep.
And obviously for some of the biotechs, the runways, dried out, and then they had to close their operations, even if they had absolutely amazing assets.
Yep.
And that is still, to a large degree, in my opinion, from what I can see, still continuing. But I think so. This week I have attended the Danish Bio Gala, and I have spoken to fundraising biotechs as well as the various service providers. I think all of them have agreed that there is some movement starting from the beginning of this year. There is some sort of increased activity in general, so some hope, and some projects also kind of getting unlocked from the funding perspectives. Very, very cautious, I'm sure, from the investors' perspective, but somewhat optimistic.
Well, I think it's cautiously optimistic. Is that
cautiously
the
optimistic
phrase we can use with confidence? And again, I don't know how different it is in Europe to the US, but are you seeing visibility with women in the industry in Europe?
It's kind of yes and no. I'm also a member of Women in Life Science Denmark, so these are women in leadership positions and C-level board members. So of course, I have the pleasure to network and meet and be part of special interest groups within Wild. So a lot of very successful women. So it's really great to see that, to
Good.
be able to talk to them and share experiences. So the organization was created so women, would self-advocate as well, and that was great. But then I went to Zurich for the ZACS conference.
Right.
And I'm sure you have also seen that at these panels at some of these conferences, and it's like, it would be nice to have at least one woman.
At least one, yeah. What I don't know, are enough women putting themselves up for speaking at events, or is it a very typical woman trait that we all go through, that kind of imposter syndrome of, why is anybody going to want to listen to me? I don't know that I've got anything to say that would be of interest. Is there a kind of part of that as well as to why there are not more women on the panels?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I haven't been a person assembling those panels.
We'll have to do more research on that
myself. But
I'll research it and I'll come back to you, Anna, and say, this is what I found out. Because I genuinely, I don't know either. But you've spoken before, and I've read a quote from you about silencing your inner critic.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you?
So I believe I tend to be quite demanding of myself. And that also comes together with, let's say, if I don't deliver, in my own opinion, then of course that leads to some form of self-criticism.
Yep. Well, how has your mindset changed as your career's progressed? Are you managing to kind of silence it a bit more, or does it keep roaring up when you kind of least expect it?
I think it's something I'm actually working on right now. I attended this workshop, which was actually organized by one of the wild groups, and I think it was also very, very helpful to hear the perspectives of others and how they think, the situations that they have experienced, the sort of voices in themselves. It was very helpful. I think it was extremely helpful.
Any of those sorts of things tend to be really enlightening and also make you feel less alone. It's, this has happened to other people. It's not just me. Have you found that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great that usually we women are more open to talk about these things. So we actually have a more tendency to actually solve problems together. So I think that's actually really great. I do.
All right. So you've got your 20-year milestone in the industry, 20 years. What does that milestone mean to you?
I think it was just a fantastic moment to celebrate It's really great to be able to pause a little bit and look back at the experience that I was fortunate to gain through those years, and also I think also on the contributions that I have made in various clinical development programs.
What are you most proud of?
There have been, I guess, many things that I can be proud of. So it's hard to kind of pinpoint it.
Is there like a personal, do you know what, I did that. I made that happen. When you ponder those 20 years, just that one rises up each time as, that was a landmark thing for me.
I think I could think of one sort of example of a clinical trial in which I have led and found sort of ways and options of accelerating it. And of course, this was a privilege to be able to work with that specific sponsor, which was extremely structured and had a fantastic strategy for being very fast in their clinical development.
Right.
But I put some bricks into that process and moved these steps further ahead and faster, and also with finding various solutions, and not only that, but also engaging with the key opinion leaders. So I'm talking about a rare disease, so an ultra rare disease. So we're talking about 50 patients in the whole of Europe.
Wow.
It's a rare genetic disorder, and that sponsor had a fantastic technology. It was a pediatric study, so we're talking about very, very little patients. And there was so much excitement about it, and the product was registered from first administration in humans to registration in a very, very short time. I think it was like a record time. So being part of something like this, one that comes to mind.
Excellent. Oh, that's fantastic. And what advice would you give to your younger self now?
I don't know if this is so much maybe the advice to younger self, but I think recently I had some situations and cases where I slightly doubted my judgment, and then I kind of knew something in my head, but maybe got influenced by others.
Yep.
And I sort of didn't execute the steps as I actually thought that should be done, and then later it was confirmed that my initial strategy or approach was really spot on. So really to trust your own sort of judgment and really not to doubt yourself so much.
Trust your gut.
Trust
My mum
your
always
gut.
used to say.
Yeah, but it's just not about the gut, because gut is more like intuition. So it's like kind of a guess, but it's more about knowing. You know that already. So it's not coming from your sort of, feeling area, but your cognitive area.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that would be something, if it was for myself, some years earlier, then probably that's what I would.
That's where you'd have gone. All right. And my final question to you, what advice would you give to someone navigating the industry today?
So I think for people who are at sort of at the beginning of their career, so I would advise them to persevere in whatever they would like to achieve. And also, if they are in a role or position where maybe they are not, fulfilled completely, to really make a plan for finding something that is more where they would be happier and where it's more suitable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to just, resign from one day from
Just go
another,
give up your job. Just leave.
but make a plan and execute on it, and of course really believe that it's absolutely feasible and possible to achieve those goals. I know it's sometimes easier said than done, but I think the industry from job perspective isn't sort of at its best right now for many
tell me
people.
about it.
So there is, it's a little bit challenging, I would think, for many people.
So it's really having the passion for the industry and believing in the industry. And if you don't have that passion and you don't have that belief, then maybe it's not the right path for you, kind of thing.
I would definitely agree, because it's not really easy to work in this industry or clinical research industry. I think a CRA job, the clinical research associate job, is the prime example of how underappreciated these people are by many sort of even stakeholders in the industry, but they are really the ones that make things happen with the data, with the relationship with the sites, and
Yep.
yeah, it's a really, really tough job. You are really sort of stuck in between there. So if you don't have that inner kind of motivation, it could be challenging.
Yeah. You get stuck between a rock and a hard place, don't you?
Exactly, that's what I would.
Anna, listen, thank you so much for giving us some time today. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I promise I'll make sure next time we speak, I'll have learned how to greet you in your proper language rather than whatever I thought it was. There you go. So again, wish you every success with AnRes and all of the work that you're doing within the clinical development field. And I look forward to continuing to follow your success in Europe.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for this fantastic opportunity.
It's an absolute pleasure. Have a great day. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me for this episode of She Leads Biotech. If today's story inspired you, subscribe, follow, and comment, because when one woman's voice is heard, many more find theirs. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and keep leading.